Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome back or welcome in for another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. I am your host, Joy Giovanni, joyful medium, psychic medium, energy healer, and fellow sensitive soul navigating this world right alongside you. If you've been feeling heavy, tired, uncertain, overwhelmed, or just like the world is a lot right now, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about recession, uncertainty, and energetic self care, a spiritual reset for sensitive souls like us. Between the economic uncertainty, potential recession, total unrest globally, collective burnout, the energy around us is swirling right now, and it can feel like a fog that we can't quite shake is just resting over us, right? And as a sensitive or intuitive person, chances are you're not feeling just your emotions. You're likely absorbing or tapping into everyone else's emotions too. That can be a lot. So today I'm sharing a spiritual reset of sorts, 7 ways to tend to your own energy and emotions when everything around you feels chaotic, unstable, uncertain. Whether you're stressed about the economy, overstimulated by the news cycle, or worry about what's going on in our collective world, overwhelmed by your own personal current circumstances, or just feeling emotionally off, these practices are simple, grounded, and supportive of your spiritual connection. And there are lots of ways to play with them and integrate them into your everyday life. So I'm excited to share them with you. And I would love it if you would share with me which of these you feel resonate most with you and like you can integrate them pretty easily into your existing day-to-day habits. So let's dive right in. The first of these 7 self-care techniques that can support your emotions is naming the energy that's not yours. This sounds really simple, but sometimes it can be confusing, like we were just talking about. Sometimes things feel really chaotic, and it can get to feel a little hard to discern what emotions belong to us and what we're picking up of everyone else around us, even if it's people that aren't in our family, like the collective energy or concern that's happening. So when the world feels like it's spinning out, it's really easy to tune into or absorb some of that collective energy, even without realizing it. And the quote unquote collective can be like from a world event, from our own country that we live in, or country of origin, our towns, our communities, the groups that we're in, even our own families and friend groups. So there are so many different energies that we're greeting on a day-to-day basis. And all of this is coming at us, swirling around us all at once. That weird fogginess that maybe you've been feeling, that anxiety that doesn't seem to have a root, it might not be yours. Each day or any time that you feel off or just a little unsettled, you can pause and do a quick energy check. So when energy or emotion feels foreign, you can just check in. Like if you're just feeling a little off, a little unsettled, a little foggy, just do a quick scan of your physical body, of your energetic field, and just ask yourself what energy or emotion feels foreign or feels like it doesn't belong to me today or in this moment. You don't even need to figure out where it came from necessarily. Just notice what's yours and what's not yours, and then gently release it. You can even say something like spirit team or spirit guide, help me release any energy that doesn't belong to me. We don't need to judge it as good or bad, just belongs to us or doesn't. And sometimes the way that you can do it is just to, if you're feeling like a little unrest in your body, a little anxious or nervous energy in your body, the way I'll do it is just check in and say like, is there something I'm anxious or nervous about in this moment, in this day, in this hour? And if there's not, then I know it's not mine and I can just release it. But if there is, I can work on, soothing myself around whatever, is mine. So if you really want to take this to the next level, even to test it out for like a week, try doing this as a quick energy check before and after each segment of your day. For me, I'll usually set my energy first thing in the morning. The truth is we reset overnight. As we sleep, our energy naturally resets and comes back into some version of balance. So first thing in the morning, I'll set my energy. I'll take a baseline. How am I feeling this morning, right? What's my mood? What are my on top emotions? Am I in resistance or flow right now? And then I'll just quickly notice my energy and emotions. And I'll do this throughout the day. So if I was going to go to the gym first, for example, when I arrived at the gym, I would just take a moment and do a quick energy check. What's my mood? What's my energy level? Any emotions on top? And then I would just notice releasing what wasn't mine. I might even do it after I left the gym as well. Okay, how am I feeling? What's my energy level? What's my mood? Has anything shifted? And if I notice, yeah, I'm feeling some just amped up energy, this doesn't feel like mine, I would just intend to do a quick release. And then you shower, get ready, move on to the next segment of my day. If I had meetings, I would again do this right before I went into my first meeting. How am I feeling? What's my emotion on top? What's my mood? Doing a quick energy check right before going into the meeting or the Zoom or whatever you have. And then again after, right? Has anything shifted for us during this meeting? So you can just kind of, and it doesn't have to be a long check. It can be 30 to 60 seconds, checking in on your mood, your energy, and so on. So that's the first one. And this is just such a quick and easy check because, again, we are picking up so much around us and we can match our energy to other people's moods, other people's stressors, things that they have going on. And it can be an unconscious thing. The quicker we can get in the habit of noticing, the quicker we can release. And then we don't have to carry it around our day with us. So that is the first thing I have to offer. The second of these 7 self-care checks and tips for stressful times is coming back to the body. So when life feels overwhelming, our energy can just shoot right up into our head or into our upper chakras, kind of out of our body. And often what's really happening is that our energetic field, our soul, our auric field is spread way out around us to kind of suss out whatever is popping off at the moment. It's a natural response. It usually happens as a result or as a reaction to fear or stress or concern. It can be a trauma response that we can just easily slip into once we've done it before. And you might even have heard people say before things like, oh, I felt like I left my body, or I wasn't even in my body for that experience. And this happens to varying degrees at different times. So you might find yourself overthinking, spiraling into worst case scenarios, or even having trouble sleeping. That's a good time to make sure you're coming back to your body, right? The reset for this is really just bring your awareness back to your body. Often the way I say it when I'm guiding meditations is bring all of your awareness into the center of your head and start to say hello to your body and feel your body. There's lots of ways to do it, but I'm going to give you a super easy way. It's just putting your hand over your heart, one hand over your heart. If you want to put the other hand somewhere, I like to put it on my third chakra, which is in your solar plexus, kind of right at the bottom of your rib cage. And you can just do some quick, or well, let's not say quick breaths, but slow, easy breaths, just 3 or 4 breaths, bringing yourself back into your body just with your intention. And then you could even take a quick stretch after that. For some, if you have a few extra minutes, you can roll out a yoga mat or a towel, move your hips. If you have a little extra time, you could go for a walk without your phone. So the thing I want you to focus on with this one is your body is your antenna. It's an incredibly sensitive instrument, way beyond our current understanding. We always joke in my classes and groups that science is like catching up to what the body and the energy field can do all the time. So I don't think science has fully proven or understood even what our instrument, this incredibly sensitive instrument of our body, is doing. It's way beyond our current understanding. So when you come home to it, to your body, your intuition gets clearer, your energy gets grounded, you get calmer. And remember, our emotions and intuition work together, and our body is not separate from that relationship. So how these emotions land in your body can also tell you a lot from an intuitive sense. Somebody sent me this really cool post or reel that somebody did on Instagram, and it was someone talking about that they did this experiment with pheromones, and they had 3 different groups. I'm not going to get this exactly right, and quite honestly, I can't remember what the reel was. I couldn't save it for some reason. And they had, it's like a double-blind study, so they had people wear these neoprene like wetsuits, and one group did running, one group did like a fear-based activity where they like a really adrenaline fear-based, like I think it was like cliff diving or something like that, and the other group did something like where they were being chased or something. something. And then they bottled all these sweats and had people smell them that had no idea even what they were smelling or why. And the brain had biologic responses to the smells of these pheromones, even if they didn't smell different to the naked nose, right? So it's letting us know that our bodies are interpreting more than even than we could possibly understand. And the reason I love that is it shows you that our body really is this incredible instrument, whether it's through our physical senses, through our subtle senses. Lots is happening as we go through the world. So we can intuitively know a lot just by coming into our body and understanding how these conversations are hitting, how emotions are rising up as things are happening. So if you can find that experiment, it's really cool to watch. I'll see if I can find it. And if I can, I'll link it in the show notes. The more that we can come back into the body and work on sensitizing ourselves to our own emotions and how they land and live in our bodies, the more clear the messages from your body and your intuition can become. But we have to know what our own emotions are, right? So that we can recognize when an emotion isn't ours, and so that we can recognize what this emotion's telling us. Like, oh, this meeting felt pretty successful. I feel still a little anxious about this project that we're talking about starting. Let me check in and see like what's going on here. There's obviously more to know, right? So it's so subtle and so simple, and something we can do as we go about our day to day. When I was new to this work, my first mentor told me, you're out of your body. Like, that's one of the reasons you're not, because she would say, where do you feel that in your body? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She was like, oh, you're out, you're living mostly out of your body. And I was like, I didn't even know what she meant. And once I really started coming back into my body energetically and being able to feel in my body, it really did help me connect some dots and be able to work in a different way with my intuition. So I highly encourage it. The third of these 7 suggestions and tips for self-care in chaotic times is turning down the noise. Okay, let's be honest. The digital world can be emotionally exhausting, especially during uncertain times. Between news headlines and social feeds and even well-meaning conversations about these things can feel like an overload, and can overload our already kind of sensitive and maybe feeling overloaded already systems at times. Plus, part of the challenge of the current chaos is that it seems to turn on a dime. It's like one thing will be rolling out that feels concerning or like we need to be worried about it, and then all of a sudden there'll be a quick pivot and then more things layered in. So it's not even like we can rest into some semblance of order or ease or understanding what's coming next. It's really chaotic all around. So it's hard to understand exactly what's truly happening, what's just big talk, and how each piece of what's happening truly affects us in our individual lives and going forward. So if we didn't have enough stress, this is all very stressful, right? So even though nothing is truly quote unquote predictable, even though sometimes we feel like it is, we tend to feel much more anxious when things feel really unpredictable, right? So how do we turn down the noise? Because I believe we need to be informed to some level so we know how to prepare or what's going on or what we need to do. But we don't need to be inundated having the news cycle running in the background at all times. So one of the things you can do is set boundaries with your inputs. What do I mean? Maybe you only check your news once or twice a day. I have just a few news sources that are who I even check news from, that are more less sensationalized, more just the actual nitty gritty of what I need to know. So perhaps it's the sources that you're choosing, and maybe only checking in once or twice a day, so it's not on your mind, plaguing you all the time. Maybe if you want to be even take this a little bit extra, maybe you have one 48-hour scroll break, right? What I've already seen in 2025 is that many things going on can look very different in 48 hours. I don't know about you, but I think sometimes there's a really amped up thing that's happening, and in 48 hours it's either been postponed for 90 days or now these two entities are in talks and we are more on eggshells, not needing to worry. So a 48-hour break, if you can make it happen, is great in our own lives. Check in with your spin. What do I mean? Are you worrying, stressing, mentally stewing, like spinning out on something that is not yours? Meaning nobody asked you to help with it. Nobody asked you to worry about it. Maybe you're concerned about something for a friend or a family member or someone you care about. Just worrying and spinning and stewing, it's not helpful. And maybe they don't even need your help or haven't even asked for your help. So you're putting this on yourself or taking it on yourself in a way that just might not be serving you or anyone else the best, especially when it comes to our individual lives and loved ones. It can feel really hard not to worry, right? Whatever the situation that you're facing is, spinning out into these stories that we tell ourselves in our anxious minds is really never helpful. The truth is, when we're spinning out emotionally and mentally, finding ways to turn down the noise is really the only way to shift the energy, right? If we're really overloaded, putting more in and more on top, on top, on top, it's not the solution, right? The solution is to pause or to get still or to shift the energy. And sometimes turning down all the noise around us is the best way to do it. And remember, getting quiet looks different for each of us. And sometimes it can even be different case by case in each situation. Like even for me, turning down the noise or getting quiet can look different in different circumstances on different days. So give yourself some flexibility here. Instead of filling the silence with more content, fill it with your inner voice, right? Maybe pull a card, do some journaling, or just sit and listen within. Maybe you can enjoy some music, or maybe even enjoy some sunshine if it's sunny where you are yet in your part of the world. Take in some art or some natural beauty, use your own creativity, or even read a book if you can. And just let your imagination take the wheel. So diverting your focus even temporarily. So if you can't fully shut down that noise, maybe you're just focusing on a different vibration of noise, a more pleasant noise, right? Number 4 of these tips for times that are stressful, overwhelming, uncertain, chaotic for self-care. Anchor into something sacred every day. Feeling disconnected, numb, overwhelmed, or unmotivated. I know I have been feeling some of these things lately. That is your soul calling you back to center. It's a little flashing red light back there saying, hey, you're off center, come back, right? So choose one small sacred practice each day. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't even have to be time consuming. It just has to be intentional, right? Just you setting the intention and intentionally doing a sacred activity, something small for yourself daily. It could be something like lighting a candle and saying a prayer. It could be sipping your morning tea with mindfulness and just taking those 5 or 10 minutes for yourself to have that mindful moment. You could do a 3 to 7 minute meditation and just ground or get still, or even a fun guided meditation where you're, floating off to some mystical forest. That moment of connection creates almost like a thread back to the unseen world and back to you. And it helps us if we can kind of plug in these little sacred moments for ourselves. It's just a touchstone, and it makes it that much easier to come back to ourselves, to call our energy back from all the noise. So if you can do this a few times throughout the day, even better. Many years ago, most of you know, I had a practice primarily as a healer and a massage therapist. And a trick that I used that was fast and simple that I want to share, I almost never had breaks throughout the day. I've had some clients and students that like to do these little anchoring into something sacred on like their lunch break, for example, if their morning's chaotic. I almost never had lunch breaks, so I had to find a different way to do this. And so I would take advantage of the time when I washed my hands. Now, many, many, many massage therapists and healers for eons have used washing hands as a way to release energy and for grounding. So I already was doing that. I actually learned that in my initial holistic medicine training in like 2001. So I already was doing that. So every time you wash your hands, which hopefully you're still doing a lot of times throughout the day, you can imagine releasing energy and grounding as that water runs over your hands. Then before each client, what I would add in is right after washing my hands, I would take just about 30 to 60 seconds outside that room door, that treatment room door, before I would go into the treatment room to just breathe, connect in, say hello to myself as a soul, and just take those 30 to 60 seconds to feel that connectedness. I might also, I would see several clients a day. So sometimes I might just take that 30 to 60 seconds to say hello to myself as a soul and remember I'm a soul having this human experience. Sometimes I might do a quick hello to a healing guide or a healing master that I'm working with for that session. Just acknowledge them and take 30 seconds to just breathe and feel them beside me. I might take that 30 to 60 seconds to give some gratitude for my body, for my muscles, for working so hard, for my lungs and my heart. So there are lots of ways that you can take these sacred moments. You could easily find 30 to 60 seconds to pause in your day where you could take a moment and privately infuse some small practice. You could, I like this could be a little game for you where it's like, where could I find 30 to 60 seconds to just acknowledge myself as a soul, or just to acknowledge my body, or just to say a quick hello to my guide or my angel or my loved one on the other side. 30 to 60 seconds. You'll be amazed how much more connected you feel over time. Okay, number 5 of these 7 tools and tips and tricks is when let your emotions move, is the way I want to say it. When emotions feel stuck, right? Or like stuck on an emotion or stuck in a feeling, hooked on a feeling. When emotions feel stuck, we often want to avoid them. That's just the truth. Our human nature is to avoid discomfort. Or if we're not trying to avoid those stuck emotions, we often will judge ourselves for even having that emotion. Oh, why do I feel like this? Why is this feeling still here? Why am I still thinking about this, right? So sometimes we are intentionally pushing those emotions down or ignoring them in some cases, and sometimes maybe for a long time. And this can cause a lot of issues. It can cause physical discomfort and illness. It can cause lots of discomfort for us in lots of ways when things feel chaotic, especially when things feel like threats of danger. Threats of potential upheaval in parts of the world, potential conflict or war, even. We're looking at a lot of economic uncertainty, right? Uncertainty in many ways collectively right now. Plus, on top of that, whatever you have in your personal life circumstances, in your own workplace, in your own world, right? It can feel like just too much sometimes. So sometimes it does feel hard to let these emotions move. And deep fears are also being triggered. I want you to just notice and know that. Triggered or activated, if you like the word activated better. I tend to like that a little bit better. And it can stir up a lot of emotions that come out in all sorts of ways. So perhaps these threats of economic upheaval or uncertainty or recession might be triggering very old fears for you, for example. So when things feel really chaotic, we can have all types of responses because activated emotions are part of what's in this mix here, and we might not even know it, right? But emotions are just energy in motion. They're not blocks. They're part of the path forward. So really the job here is to create space to feel. That can look like just taking 5 minutes, 3 minutes to sit, breathe. You can do that breathing exercise with hand on heart that we talked about. And just asking yourself, and it doesn't have to be a hard question, it can just be holding space for the idea of what wants to be felt right now. What inside me wants to be felt right now? And you don't have to fix it. Just honor the emotion. Just let it move. Just let it reveal itself to you. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to know where it came from. And if you want to take this to the next level, just throughout your day to day, notice if you are acting out. And I put that in quotation marks, acting out deeper emotions in any area of your life. This might be obviously connected to the deeper fear that's coming up for you right now, or it might be coming out in a totally different area or presentation. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. For example, let's take one person, but 3 different versions of this person. Let's take a person, someone who's afraid and having lots of anxiety and fear around potentially being laid off due to all the political extreme cuts. I've actually had this in several people in this last, I was going to say these last few months, but it hasn't even been that long. These last several weeks, a lot of people are just feeling stressed, overwhelmed, concerned, this dread about, oh my gosh, I'm afraid that I might get laid off due to all of these dramatic and drastic and reckless cuts that are being made. Okay. So that's the fear. Person A might react to that fear in outbursts of anger, like quick anger that just bursts out and rises to the surface. For example, maybe they get mad and have an outburst at lunch at the waiter for forgetting to bring their lemon with their ice water, rather than just giving that waiter a break and saying like, oh yeah, oh, when you have a chance, would you mind to bring that lemon? But this really angry outburst that just bursts out of nowhere, that's likely out of character for this person. Person B might emotionally withdraw from like their partner, for example, and they would go to stewing inside and ruminating and panicking inwardly and questioning everything that they have in their 5-year plan. And that second person might not express the fear and might struggle privately and put all of that fear inwardly. And the way we experience it as their partner is them just really pulling away. And we feel the energy of pulling away. So that's a very different way to have this fear manifest in the emotions in our body. Person 3 with this same fear of layoffs might suddenly be compulsively buying or spending online, finding that they are shopping, consuming, wanting to even stay up maybe late into the night, moving the intensity of their focus here instead of to the real issue to like a compulsive shopping type of an issue. So that's 3 very different ways that this fear and anxiety, this rumination of, the fear of getting laid off could present itself. Now, the reason I'm encouraging you to notice the behavior is because when we start to notice behavior in ourselves that's out of character here, it could be a red flag for us. Once we identify our own behavior, or like, well, that's weird. Why am I snapping at people? That doesn't feel like me. Why am I so on edge? Or why am I so withdrawn? Why do I feel like I want to push people away from me right now? Or why do I feel like I just want to buy everything? Do I need these things? Am I panic buying? What is happening here, right? So just noticing the behavior, and that once we notice it's out of character, we can investigate further and proceed accordingly based on whatever we become aware of, right? And of course, if therapy is accessible to you, if that's something that's within your means or you have the privilege to access it, it's also a great option here to help gain tools to identify our emotions and actions. But really, just acknowledging that, we need to take space to feel, because sometimes our feelings can be tricky and sometimes they can be coming out. That toothpaste can be oozing out of that tube in messy directions that don't even seem connected to what the emotion is. So pausing, noticing our behavior as we go throughout our day, especially if something's a little out of character, off color, and coming back to ourself. All of these really intertwine, even though you can use them separately, just to be able to identify our actions and let those emotions move so that we're not shoving them down and having them come out in messy other ways. Number 6 of our 7 tips and self-care tools for chaotic times is call in higher help and then get quiet. What do I mean by this? And I don't mean hire as in like hire some help for yourself. I wish we could all do that. I mean higher as in higher vibrational, right? Sometimes when the world feels chaotic, we can crave signs or messages or validation from spirit or our loved ones. But the truth is, guidance doesn't always get through to us when we are in an emotion of chaos. Our loved ones and guides and ancestors and support from spirit, it's all there. It's just we are not as available to notice it when we're really lit up in our emotions, when our emotions are really chaotic, right? So what's the workaround? Try this. You can even pause and say either inward or out loud to your spirit team, to your loved ones, I'm open to receiving the support in the highest and most aligned way. Open to receiving support in the highest and most aligned ways. Or you can create your own version of that little affirmation or mantra, and then you can sit in the stillness, even if it's awkward, even if it feels uncomfortable to have 5 minutes of silence, right? Your guides or the intuition of your own soul can't shout over the noise of your emotions, but they will meet you in the stillness. And if you really cannot sit in the stillness or just want to try another option, walking is great here. Something that's gentle, that doesn't take a lot of mental focus, but that can help you like literally move your energy, move your physical body. I like walking for it. It could be walking around your neighborhood, something that's just leisurely. It could be walking around a local park, even a hike if that's for you. I've also known people who find fishing really useful for this, or even something like knitting, an activity that doesn't take a lot of brain power, but that can help you do something with your hands or your mind so that you can get quiet in a different way. Remember, there are many ways to find stillness. It doesn't have to look like just sitting on a lily pad and meditating, although that is a wonderful way. If you can do the exercise of working yourself up to being able to sustain just sitting on a little lily pad of some kind and meditating. But there are lots of ways to find stillness. And I find those of us who like to look for like stones or shells on the beach, for example, find a special stillness in this activity. So if you're a nerd like me and you love to like walk on the beach and look for shells or stones, even an activity like that is just leisurely, slow, easy, comfortable, but focus enough that we can get that stillness because we're focusing on something that doesn't cause us to think, so that that guidance, that inspiration, that support can just kind of drop in, is the way I always feel it. And remember, your loved ones and ancestors, your guides, the spirit world, they're always standing by supporting you as well. And also remember, they can't give us all the answers or make it so that we avoid all discomfort, but they can support, encourage, and even sometimes remind us how much love we have behind us from the unseen world. Surrender is one of the hardest things that we must do in our human experience, each in different ways at different times, but we will all experience things outside of our comfort zones and outside of our control. But I want you to realize that surrender is not giving up, right? Surrendering to that stillness, surrendering to what is. It's not giving up. I'm going to give you a couple thoughts of what surrender is and what it's not. Surrender says, I'll still show up, but I don't need to predict or control how it unfolds. That's surrender. Surrender is the exhale and release after we've been trying to force something into place, right? Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of the fight against what's already here or what's already happening. And I find the emotion of surrender really expressed beautifully in the serenity prayer. So I also hang on to that as a little bit of a mantra. I don't own this. I don't even know if it's copyrighted, but I know it's used a lot by the AA programs. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? And this brings us right into our seventh way to tend to our emotions and energy during uncertain times. Number 7, return to what you can influence, right? So it is spirit or God or whatever word you like in there. Universe, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yes, please. In uncertain times, we can spiral into stressing about what we can't control: global events, the economy, politics, suffering, war, all of these stressful things. And that spiral creates this feeling of more helplessness, right? So, what's the antidote here? Choose one aligned action that you can take today or any day or every day. It might be tidying one drawer, drinking your allotted water for the day, emailing that client that you don't really want to email. I sometimes, there was like a book about it a long time ago, and it was called Eat the Frog. It's just like, do the thing you know that you don't want to do, that you know you have to do. So it could be something like that. It could be like, do those dishes or clean out that shed or whatever it is that you have to do. But what is it that's one aligned action that is a good thing, that is in support of a goal you have or something you're working on that you can do, right? One of my go-to tool combinations is really doing the energy scan that we talked about above, right? How's my mood? What's going on in my body? Is there any energy or emotion that wants to rise up and be noticed right now? The other piece of this is setting my own energy. And this is one thing we can control and that we are actually responsible for. And I especially lean into this when I feel anxious or I need to have a conversation that just feels potentially confrontational to me. I'm pretty non-confrontational by nature, for those of you that don't know me yet, especially, if it's something that's a little outside my comfort zone or something I can't handle myself, or that I feel like might be a conversation of conflict or feels confrontational to me. Because really, it might seem small, but the action that we're taking, whatever that small, aligned one action that we can take, a thing we can move the needle on, it's really not just doing that one thing or action, right? Part of it is that our actions can shift energy. And taking one small aligned action lets the universe know I'm anchored, I'm participating, I'm willing, I'm ready for help and assistance, right? So I'm going to give you an example of when I used this recently, returning to one thing I can influence. I think we all know that there's been just chaos in the economy, the stock markets here in the States and also globally. And one of the things I had to do just this last week is there's a wellness place that I go to, and it's like a wellness center, and I'm like have a membership there essentially. And I just noticed at the beginning of the month that my account had been being overbilled by about 25% for the past 3 months, right? I had so much anxiety. I went on my weekly appointment. I went and talked to the person at the front desk and brought this to their attention. They said, oh, you know what? I don't know. I'll ask my manager. They kind of gave me a little bit of a hard time about it, which built my anxiety even more. I never heard back from that person. So it was kind of stewing in the back of my mind a little bit. It was on my to-do list. I was aware it was there. I also knew that there was like a timeline for this, because if I let it go too long, you know how it is. If you're asking for a refund or a price adjustment and you let it go too long, chances are they're going to say no. So I knew I had to call. So what I did when I was setting myself up to do the call in the morning, I knew I was going to do it. I knew, okay, it was just the other day. I was like, okay, today's the day I have to get this done. I have a block of time that I could be on the phone. I need to do this. So I was feeling really anxious about it. The truth is I was avoiding it a little bit. I did some other things that I needed to do before I tackled this item. And then I realized I was in resistance. I was avoiding it a little bit, even though I knew it was getting done that day. I had already pushed it back a couple other days, is the truth. And so what did I do? I did a quick body scan. How am I feeling? What's happening in my body? What's my mood? I got grounded, because that's how I know I can discharge that anxious energy. I can bring in more of the energy of my highest aligned soul self. I can remember who I truly am as a soul. And I know this might seem ridiculous, like a little bit of a situation, but for those of you who are introverts or INFJ or just sensitives, I think you can vibe what I'm saying right now, because I think we've all had situations where it's like, oh, I don't want to call and deal with this thing. So I get grounded. I do my body scan. I make sure that I set my energy. I kind of released some of the anxiety, and then I said, okay, I'm going to set my energy at easy, peaceful, kind, grounded, because my desired end result was to have a peaceful conversation with this person and hopefully get some sort of price adjustment, refund, and get this fixed going forward, right? I set my energy, and I try to lean into being extra nice on these type of calls, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. And I was able to move through the call with ease. It was fine on the other end. I actually didn't hear anything for a couple of days. And then they did ultimately end up saying they would do the correction for this month and not the other months, and that they would change it going forward. And I was fine with that. But I do notice this, and I wonder if this is true for you, if you're someone who's energetically very sensitive. I actually have a couple other things that I'm waiting for responses on or emails on, and I do get a little nervous tummy action about it. So what I do in those cases, again, I am responsible for setting my energy. I am responsible for how much something going on affects my emotions, my physical energy, for how much I let it, how much time, like how much space I let it consume in my mind, in my day, in my conversations. So I have a couple other things right now that I'm waiting for responses on. And whenever I'm doing my energy check in my body, sometimes I feel a little anxiety, and I'll ask, okay, what is that about? Oh, it's about that I'm still waiting for this response. And this one in particular that I'm waiting for, it's such not a big deal. I mean, it's important to me. It's significant. So in that way, it is a big deal, but it's not like I'm going to get in trouble for something. It's not like, that's the energy, the way it feels in my body is like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if this person's going to approve of me. I don't know if this conversation is going to go forward in the way that I'm hoping. And so I acknowledge that energy, that emotion. I try to ground it out or release it as much as I can. I try to really understand what's true and factual about the situation and what's within my ability to do something about. I've already done all the parts that I can. And so I'm working on, in these instances, just kind of getting a little separation emotionally from it and acknowledging, okay, some of this might be heightened in its activation because of things I've experienced in the past. And the truth is, I know everything's always working out. Everything's always working out, even if it doesn't seem like it, even if it means that my path's going to be totally diverted and I'm going to have to take the long way around. I know and I trust that things are always working out behind the scenes, that divine timing is always at play, and that I have guides and supporters behind the scenes working on my behalf at all times. And the truth is, I have come to learn, perhaps the hard way, that I really only want to be involved in things that are in alignment with my highest good, that are in alignment with the direction that I want to go in this lifetime and the things that I want to experience as a soul. So I'm okay if some things are not for me, even if I don't understand why, even if it seems like something I wanted. I have learned to trust, okay, if it's not for me, keep it far from me. And I just have to trust that delays are in my favor, that if something doesn't work out, it's because there's something that I didn't know about the situation, and it's always for my highest and greatest good, and that there'll be more opportunities just around the corner. And saying those type of validations or affirmations, or just acknowledging what is true, what I can control, what are my intentions, what do I know for sure, it just kind of calms my energy somehow. So whether you're sitting still and doing it or taking a walk and doing it, I really encourage you to find ways to just sprinkle or marinate these little quick tools, quick self-care for the spiritual side of you, for the soul side of you. It really does help. Because the truth is, you don't need to carry the weight of the world. None of us do as individuals. And as sensitives, we kind of want to. We kind of think it's our burden to bear because we can feel it and because we have compassion, right? Your compassion is a beautiful part of you, but you also need to care for your own energy and open to support from spirit. These are intense times. I think it's something we can all agree on. And you deserve to have tools you can use and strategies to support yourself through all of it. Your soul came here in this unique moment, in this specific time in history, even if you don't understand why right now, and you don't walk it alone. That's the truth. Your guides are with you. Your light still matters, and you're allowed to feel, to reset, and to rise again and again and again. And if this episode resonated with you or kind of piqued your curiosity to explore some of these tools or opened your mind in a different way, I would love it if you would share it with a fellow sensitive soul. And if you haven't already, please hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. I hope that these tips have helped you, whether we end up in a recession or not, whether we feel like things are really uncertain or whether we feel like they're settling back in. We do need this energetic self-care, especially as sensitive souls. So I hope that things are well for you this week, and I hope that these tools are helpful. Let me know what is coming up for you and how you are finding it best to use this energy and these tools in your own day-to-day. Big hugs, lots of love. Bye for now from inside the Spirit Speakeasy.